Hi, I'm Jo Beale and I'm an artist, illustrator and workshop leader, and I live in Wiltshire in the UK, and I love to draw. And one of the ways that I use my drawing is that I like to capture my life and the world around me in my sketchbooks and journals. So today I'm going to show you how you could make a small 8-page fold-out sketchbook, and I'm going to show you some of the ways that I like to use the ones that I make. And then I will show you how to make them. And one of the reasons that I love using them is because I think they are really versatile. Often I make one and I'll take it out on a walk for the day and just capture perhaps just some moments on that walk, or even if I'm just at home working, I'll keep it with me and I might just kind of draw what I'm doing in the morning and then draw a bit of my lunch or something like that, and then maybe the bit of the view out of the window, and just bit by bit then that little book fills up with moments from the day, and it's a memory and a reflection on that day as well. And I like to add writing in also with my drawings and combine the two. And another way that you can use them, and another way I like to use them, is to dedicate them to perhaps a project or a theme, and then fill them with drawings based on that theme. So let's get going. First of all, I will show you some of my sketchbooks and then we'll make some. Okay, so here are some of my 8-page fold-out sketchbooks. Let's have a look at some of them in a bit more detail. This is one of my favourites, and I like to use just simple lining paper for most of my little fold-out sketchbooks, and that's just the paper that you can get on the roll that you put underneath your wallpaper. So it's really, only like £5 for sort of 10 meters of paper, and then I cut them up and use them for myself and also in lots of my workshops. So this is the size that this one folds out to. So it's just roughly kind of A3 in size. And for this one, I took this piece of paper with me as a fold-out sketchbook on my walk. But all I did on my walk was that I opened it out and I took a rubbing of the word Ridgeway from the signpost, and also these little characters here that you find on bridleway signposts and things like that. And I had some notes with me to follow and a route map. So I used all of that on my walk and I took lots of photos, and then everything else was done when I got home, using all those things as kind of source materials and source information. So you can see that I've drawn the map of roughly where my walk was, started in the town of Watlington. And then if you can see there's little dotted lines, they denote the direction of travel of my walk. And that's given me space on the page, it's broken down the page for me, which means that then I can draw little moments from that walk on my pages. So we've got the time of year here. It was Easter time, the bluebells were out, it was absolutely gorgeous. This is a lovely kind of long hollow way, beautiful trees coming over. And I made a few notes about some of the significant things that I saw on my walk as well. So that works really nicely folded out like that, or opened out, and then I can fold it up. And one thing to bear in mind is if you do work on your page, your book opened out, if you don't plan where you're putting things, then when you use it as a book, it might come out in a little bit random, because you can see that drawing there is upside down. But I don't really mind that, to be honest. I quite like the surprise of things when that happens. This is an example where I've used my book and I've dedicated it to a theme, and the theme is January, and I made this in January 2024. So I made the book, and then I made sure that I numbered my pages so that when I did work on it, or if I wanted to work on it opened out, I knew which way up my drawing needed to go and on what page. So there's some of the things that I've wanted to kind of capture about January. using writing and drawing is first some creative lettering, and this is all about where the word January comes from. So I've used some creative lettering, filled gaps in with colour and pattern. So that says January was named for the Roman god Janus. He is depicted with two faces, one looking in to the past, the other with the ability to see into the future. So when I do this, if I kind of have to break words up, then I do, and I don't worry about it. So then I thought about some of the natural seasonal finds we see in January, and I've used different approaches of drawing, different drawing techniques to make these drawings. So an ivy leaf, I drew around the ivy in pencil, and then used some hatching and cross hatching in the negative space just to make that shape pop. And then an observational drawing. These are the seeds that you find in a plant which is kind of commonly called lords and ladies. I don't know if you might have been able to identify that, but that's those. We've got a kind of simplified, stylized drawing of some snowdrops. So just the basic shape of the snowdrop, and then some kind of wintry blues in the background. And then capturing the weather, that's something that I find quite exciting and inspiring, taking inspiration from the skies and the colour schemes that you can see in the skies at any given moment. And I've written wintry, windy skies, and these marks here are supposed to kind of represent the feeling of being outside in those wintry, windy skies. And then I looked up the definition of wintry, and it said characteristic of winter, especially in feeling or looking very cold and bleak. And then here I've used 2 pages to draw some spindly, twisty, contorted hazel, and and some ivy. And the way that I drew both of these was that I held the hazel and the ivy above my page, and I allowed the shadow of those things to land on the page, and I drew around the shadow. So it's not an observational drawing, it's a drawing of the shadow of the hazel and the ivy. And I like to, when I do that, I like to kind of layer them up and then colour in various elements. And in this case, I've coloured in the ivy, which is a nice kind of silhouette, and then the hazel is on top. And then finally, I've drawn January's full moon, which January's full moon is called the Wolf Moon. And in 2024, it reached peak illumination on the 25th of January. And it says, at a full moon, the moon is located on the opposite side of the earth to the sun. So the face of the moon is facing towards the earth so the face of the moon that is facing towards the earth will be entirely illuminated by the sun. So I just like capturing those sorts of kind of facts as well. So this is my little 8-page fold out sketchbook dedicated to the month of January. This is a slightly different approach to this idea. So we've got a bigger booklet here. And I did work out before I began this where I wanted my pages to kind of be and what I wanted to be on my pages. So if I open this out, you'll see how I did that. So this is more of a collage piece, inspired by nature, plants and flowers. So what I did was I worked out because I wanted it to be the case that when I closed it and then opened it, we've got colour, newspaper, colour, newspaper, colour, newspaper, colour, newspaper. So I figured that out before I started, and then I put colour down on the pages that I wanted to be colour. And then these drawings, they are really simply done literally by mostly drawing around, putting a leaf or whatever it is on the page and drawing around it, and then cutting it out and collaging it down on that side. And on this side, I've put my leaf down and I've drawn around it, I think it looks really nice and effective on the newspaper. And then I've filled in some of the space in the background with other types of leaf shape. A little bit of gold pen drawing on that one. And then here we've got more of that idea of cutting out shape, cutting out leaves from different papers and sticking them down. So that's really effective and really simple and a really nice way to capture a particular subject. I spent much of the year working as artist in residence on Cranbourne Chase in Dorset as part of a landscape partnership scheme, and that meant that I had the amazing, wonderful opportunity to spend a lot of time in the landscape, and I learnt a lot about the history of the area and also the archaeology of the area. And I spent some time in a wonderful museum, one man's kind of archaeological collection from his entire life, full of like Neolithic axe heads and fossils and finds from like 150,000 years ago all the way through to Victorian times. And this little book is capturing some of the amazing things that were in that museum that were really exciting to learn about and draw. And I worked on this one with it opened out straight away. So let me turn this image around so you can see it a bit better here. So what we've got in the middle is a great big drawing of a like Neolithic kind of cow, just the skull, obviously, and then around the edge, drawings of fossils that I saw, and axe heads. That's a ox horseshoe. Some pottery, I think that was like Bronze Age pottery, I think, and more bones. And I've added lots of colour. I've used my colour pencils to add some nice kind of rich colour, and I've written all over it as well, or just in the background it's just words associated with the landscape. And then this bit in the middle, I've written about some of the things that I was doing on as an artist in residence, and there's some of the groups that I was working with as well. And when this one folds up, it looks like this. And again, this is one of those examples where like I say, I drew it when the book was opened out, so I didn't really know how it was going to look when it turned into a little book, and this is how it looks. So I quite like that kind of surprise again of what you get when you just work on something and then on the page of the book and then fold it up. Was a woodland identification day done in spring. So there was Leif Beer Sweden, who you may know. He was on Spring Watch recently, well, not recently, but when it was spring. He led the course, so it was amazing, and he's so much knowledge. So I was desperately making notes all the way through, and also making little drawings as I went along. So I worked on this as an opened up page, and I'm going to continue working on this and adding some colour and going back to my photographs. But when we fold it up, it works like this. So all the writing is kind of the wrong way up again, but I don't really mind that. I quite like the accidental nature of that. And this is another identification day that I did with Leif, and this one was an orchid identification day. So I did have a chance to draw some as I was going along and making some notes. But again, I've got lots of photographs that I can refer back to on this one and finish up my little 8-page booklet. This is another map of a walk that I did, and this was a workshop that I was running in the town of Corsham. So if we open this one out, so again, I worked on this with the page opened out and put it around that way. So on my walk, I took some rubbings. This was a name of a lady that's buried in the churchyard. She's called Sarah Jarvis. There was an interesting story around her. Apparently she was she had 2 sets of teeth, so that's why it says fresh teeth, and she was buried in 1753. So I've made other little notes, so I don't know if you can see that here. We've got notes around where we were walking up the avenue. It says Lord Methuen, Corsham Court, gardens designed by Capability Brown, originally Elizabethan. So we had a guide with us on this walk, so I was making notes as I went along as well. Down here it says Colt it. It sounds like a squeaky saw. That's a good way to remember it. And then when I got back from the walk, I then kind of superimposed the route of the walk on top, which began here at the Pound Arts, which is a lovely art centre. Came up here, crossed the road, up the avenue, into the churchyard, and then back down the high street and back to the art centre. And just out of interest, when I did do this drawing, when I opened it out, I started with this drawing here, which is part of the rooftop of the art centre. And then when I did my map, I realised that it didn't relate to where the walk actually started. So never mind, I've just done a little dotted line between the 2 elements just to tie them together. And again, when that one closes up, it doesn't open, it doesn't really work as a sort of story if you were flicking through the book. But again, I don't really mind that. This is a holiday booklet that I made. I went to Canada in September. I was very lucky to go there. I was so busy meeting up with my family and having a lovely time. I didn't actually do that much journaling, but I did capture a few moments. So here is a delicious Canadian breakfast or brunch at the Pera Cafe in Kensington Market. That was on the 10th of September. A little bit of the Canadian skyline. This is me working out my dollars to pounds. And then spending time on the beach on the lakeshore at Lake Huron, where my cousins live. So had an amazing holiday. Didn't do too much art journaling, but there's a few memories in this little booklet here. So let's fold that one back up. So yeah, I love that. And then finally, this is a tiny one that I did, and this is just all writing based. So again, as part of my residency, I was tuned into an online talk about moths, an introduction to moths with Wayne Clinch. So much information to take in. So this one is all writing at the moment. I could put some drawing in the background if I wanted to. I'm going to wait and see, because a lot of these ones that I've done for Cranbourne Chase, they're going to be part of an exhibition in April and May this year, or 2024. So I actually do need to work back into these and give them some thought. So maybe I'll be able to share them again when I've finished them off. So I hope you enjoyed that little introduction to making and using an 8-page fold-out sketchbook. If you've got any questions about anything that you've seen, just drop me a line, just ask, and I'll reply. And do let me know what you do with yours. I'd love to see it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.